Welcome back to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest running sales training podcast history. I'm Bill Caskey.
Brian Neal here.
We welcome you every week. We welcome you. We release every Monday. If you are new to the family, make sure you go to advancedsellingpodcast.com, and up somewhere at the very top, it's there's a badge there for new listeners, and you can listen to some of the background of the show. And I think there might be an interview from 75 years ago with Brian and I that still probably holds true today. But if you're a new listener, welcome. If you're an old listener, we welcome you back.
You've grown up with us. You've grayed with us. And by gray, I mean hair and things. Yeah, good transition there. But we've been doing this a long time. It's been really, really awesome. Quick segue into the gray and how this all comes together. So I was telling Bill before the show, you start to get a little older, and this kind of a stereotypical thing, but especially I think old men get to be kind of old man-ish. We do old man things, like can't find our phone. We got our phone backwards. Like one of my best friends from high school, we have a text trail that goes, so we're all 54, 53. He sent a video. He's on a business trip in Vietnam. He sent a video, but he had the camera the wrong way. So all the video is basically the inside of his palm because he's holding his phone up. It's like, it is such an old man thing to do, isn't it? And you should see the video. So he's getting lambasted by all of us in the like send another one of those inspirational videos, man. That was really awesome. This time, get the inside of your ear. Hold the phone up to your ear. What's awesome.
Go to a country that's even more beautiful than Vietnam.
Right? Seriously.
So we can see the palm.
So funny. So just little things. So walking in this morning, I've never noticed this. It's cold here in the Midwest. It's freezing. It's snowing. Do you get annoyed by the sound that your shoes make when you walk on really, really thin snow in a parking lot?
Yeah,
it's
when
crunchy.
It's 10 degrees.
And I'm like, totally. I'm walking in this morning. I'm like, God, I hate this sound. Like, and I'm getting chills. Like not from the cold, from the noise. Like I've got this auditory tick thing that I can't do. So I'm not sure how to solve for that.
Oh, I don't know.
Have someone carry me in from my car. I could do that, I suppose.
I'm much older than you, much older, and I've never had. I don't get annoyed by things like that. I get annoyed by other things. And people get annoyed by me more.
That's just a thing.
My daughter Kelly, who is just fanatical about flip flops.
Oh man!
The whole flip.
Yeah, the sound,
and people who chew gum and crack it. And they have little bubbles in it.
I'm married to one of those. That's an indicator to stay away from my wife. Not in a bad way. Like she's working. It's a focus thing. When she pops her gum, which she'll be working around the house or working here in the office. And when the gum is popping, I told our team, gum's popping, stay away. She's in a zone. Popping. Let her go. Right. It's seriously funny. A real thing. So, more of those things to come down the road. All right. Topic today. Let me tee it up.
Yeah, go.
So inspired. So I saw one of Bill's LinkedIn Lives, which if you're not watching those, you should. I think I'm recording just more of the title of it. I thought was really great. And so I said, this would be a good podcast topic to just expand on a little bit. And it is the idea of the first call and how to get really good at the first call. Cause it's really, really, really important that you're really, really, really good at first time sales opportunities, first time you meet people, first calls. So we thought we'd kick this around a little bit. Bill did a LinkedIn Live about it, what I thought was really good. Then I've got a couple little tidbits I'm going to add to that. But this is all about for you getting ready as the listener to say, have I really thought about this? How good am I? And have I practiced? Have I crafted? Have I modified? Or am I just doing the same thing I've been doing forever? Or do I just wing it, somewhere along the line? No matter where you are, you need to do some work on it.
Yeah, the thing that is I find interesting is that, we talked about leverage here a couple of weeks ago, I think, and how we want to get all we can out of everything that we do, maximize our time, maximize our effort. And the first call is kind of the beginning of a relationship, presumably. And it's really important that you have some intention behind it so you get all you can out of it. And I know it's good for the prospect too, but let's just talk selfishly here for a sec, is when you make a first call and you're going to do, let's say this year you'll do 50 of those. I don't know, one a week, maybe more, maybe less. So. But that's a lot. And that's a lot of time that you put in it. And plus it takes a lot of work to get to those first calls, whether it's ads or whether it's content or whether it's cold calling. or whether it's people on your website that schedule a call. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Don't F it up. I mean, this is really good. This is really high leverage time.
Yes. Yeah. I never thought about the work put in to get there. That's so hard. So when you're there, you better be really damn good at it when you get there. Right. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
So you want to kick us off with a couple or maybe one little piece of advice around how to be a really great producer of the first call.
Yeah, I'll speak just in terms of how to do what we're about to tell you. So we're going to give you some bits, some tactics, tips, whatever. And I think it's important you write these down and keep these somewhere where you can refer to prior to a first call. And I know that sounds cheesy but this is a checklist. This is a first call checklist that we're going to come up with today. And I think if you put it in a Google Doc or even on your phone somewhere, and then you have a first call, this can be your framework for an agenda, or a framework at least to remind you of what's important. So that would be my first tip: is take some notes here today. And the first tip I would say is get your mind right. Mm-hmm. And this is not a tip as much as it is just a way of thinking. What is the purpose of the first call? We used to say, the purpose of the first call is to get to the second call. Okay, well, that seems like a little.
Is it? I don't know.
Shallow, little shallowness working in.
Right, a little old school.
Yeah, a little old school, and I'm guilty of that. But the purpose of the first call to me is just to establish some type of relationship, a rapport, serve people, not to sell and to pitch. To understand if there's really a second call that's even needed.
Yes.
Because there may not be.
Yes.
And so I think if you get your mind wrapped around the right concept here about, I'm here to serve, I'm here to create the environment where we can develop just the beginnings of a quote relationship, unquote. We're not developing the whole thing. We're just getting acquainted. We're starting to get to know each other. I think then it takes all the pressure off. And so you're not thinking, well, if he says this, I say that. It's like, get out of that crap. I mean, just be intentional, but be organic with it too.
Yes. It's funny watching people, especially now that we're remote selling, we're in internal. It's interesting watching people go from Zoom to Zoom to Zoom, or Teams to Teams to Teams with no breaks. There's no space to get right in your head if you're going from one to the other. And look at your schedule. I guarantee if you're a out and about face-to-face salesperson, this is about you like listening to the radio and sports radio or your comedy show, and then you like get your stuff together and you run in. Or if you're Zoom to Zoom to Zoom, you're not getting yourself any space to do what Bill's talking about. You got to bake that into. You got to bake buffers in to get your head right, just to get square. And that intention thing for me is the first thing. People like that whole goal is to get to the second call is wrong. I just don't believe that. I think the goal is to explore together to see if we should do a second call or not. And it's two person vote. It's you and the buyer.
It's got to be unanimous.
Has to be unanimous. It has to be, right? And that's it's just fun. I've got a friend who's an actress named Wendy Braun, who has I think her thing's called Actors in Spirit or something. She does coaching for actors. And she's an ongoing actress, like working actress on a Netflix series for like 6 years.
Wow.
But she coaches other actors and actresses. And one of the things she talks about when you go in for an audition is you're an actor. So go play. You just have some fun. People, because the actors put so much pressure on themselves to nail it, to get the part, that they tighten up and then they don't get it. So just have some fun. I think the same thing applies for the first call. It should just be a great, fun, exploratory thing with no pressure at all on either side. It's just such an enjoyable thing to do, to learn about a new business, a new culture, hear some things, get to share stuff about what you do is a really, really enjoyable, fun thing, I think.
I totally agree. And I think sales managers and leaders put some undue pressure on people and then we don't think of the fun. We think, I always say that this is, who knows what's going to happen here?
Yes.
Maybe they'll throw me out of their office, or maybe this is the beginning of a $40 million relationship,
right?
Or just a high level
decades.
relationship. Yeah. That's the beauty of why we're here on the planet, is just to see what tomorrow brings.
Absolutely.
So if we have that curiosity, I think that's good. I love that. That's good.
Great.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, your turn.
I remember. Okay. I think the whole idea of the mission here is to create the environment for the truth to be exchanged on both parts. And the environment is up to you to create. We can't let the prospect create that. And what I mean by the environment is just some sort of upfront discussion about, hey, here's what I thought would make sense today. I thought it would be useful if I shared a little bit of our story. I'd love to hear how you got here. I'd like to ask you some questions about A, B, and C. I'll share a little bit of how I work. And then at the end, we can decide if there's a logical way to continue or proceed. So whatever that sounds like for you, those are the words that I would recommend you use, or some version of that. But it needs to create an environment where the prospect is not on guard. They don't have their their shield raised because they know you're coming in for the kill.
Yes.
It's just a gentle reminder for both people that, hey, we're just here to talk. I'll ask you some questions. You ask me some questions. Let's decide at the end then. And there's no hurry. And if we decide there's no reason to talk again, that's great too. It just really sets the stage.
Really good. Love it. Love it. Love it. I'm going to go a little tactical on my deal, and I'm going to roll in something Bill just did there. I'm going to make it an item here. I'm a firm believer that every first call needs to have an agenda as part of the process. And I know salespeople like, I don't like to do agendas. I just have a gut feel, and I got my own agenda. I don't give it to them, but I'm working my own agenda over here. Just let go. Just stop. Just put an agenda together. It's just so silly. Yeah. And it's so easy. It's so easy to do. Everyone's lazy. So if you as the salesperson put the agenda together on behalf of the customer, they're going to be thankful because they don't have to do it. And so you just say, I put a little 5-point agenda to keep us on task. Feel free to, add or modify anything. And I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Every person you talk to is going to go, looks good to me. Sounds good. Thanks for putting it together. There it is. So now you have some input in the process. Now I'm going to lop up. So what's in the agenda? I just want to put two things here for you. I've got a boatload of samples of agendas. I've got an agenda builder tool that you can get a hold of if you email me or put it in the show notes, or we'll do something, Bill, for that. I'll give people my little agenda builder tool, or the sample agendas rather. But the two things that are musts, one is what Bill just said, which I just say is context setting. That's got to be the first line of the agenda. And all you got to do is put the word context. Just put the word context. And it'll just come right out. You'll say, I just like to start with a little context, set the stage. You do exactly what Bill just said. That's agenda point number one. However many agenda points you have, 4, 5, 6, doesn't matter. The last agenda item says these words. I'm not a script guy, but I'm telling you, this will make it so easy. The last agenda item says, get calendars out. Get calendars out. Because if you end every meeting with an action, which is get calendars out, not next steps. Everybody puts next steps. Next steps is too vague. Get calendars out to an action. Like, we're going to get our calendars out. That just eases you into setting the next date if you're going to have it. Obviously, if it's a no thanks, then the calendars go away. You don't have to do that last step. That's easy. But if you're going to have another step, you get your calendars out at the end of the meeting. That's the agenda item. It takes all the pressure off of you feeling weird too, to go, well, I'd like to set the next meeting, Bill. And you're like, if it's in the agenda, you've already sent it ahead of time, then it's easy. I'm telling you. Yeah, that's good. Context and get calendars out. Have an agenda. So have an agenda, send it. Send it. Oh yeah, good. And if there's any conversation you've had with your potential customer before this, we'll put it in the agenda. If they really have a hankering to know, the color scheme of the 4950 XLR, okay, put that in there. We're going to talk about that. Yeah, that's good. But you really also get to pick what your agenda is. Fantastic. Here's number 5. I think you need to have a story that you can tell, but don't force it into the conversation. So, you're on the call and Zoom call or whatever, and you do the upfront context setting, the upfront agreement, and prospect says, look, let me tell you why we're here. We are terrible at X, Y, and Z, and we know you're good at that. And we brought you in here because we want some help. We're in big pain. We have a 20 million. If they just dump, then I may not tell a story. I may back off the story because I'm not sure it's needed. But if they're not familiar with you, then I would have a story in the chamber, loaded, ready to go. It could be the company story. It could be your personal story. It could be the story of a customer.
But I've said this before, and I sound like a broken record. I guess that's what
old man broken record.
It used to be
full circle, right? Yeah.
Remember the old broken record?
It's a 33 and a half. Yeah. Remember the warped ones when it would get warped? You'd leave it. You get so upset. You buy a record, in high school, you leave it in your car and come back, it's warped. You're like,
but a lot of times it didn't matter if it was a good, and then you'd put a little stone or something on
the so it rise the rivers. That's funny.
Speaking of
sidebar,
stuff.
That's funny.
So everybody's talking about storytelling today.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about it, but yet we don't do it very often. Yeah. And I think if sometimes it feels like it's forced and it's like, well, I don't want to tell a story of, getting cut in 8th grade basketball. That doesn't make sense here. Of course not. It doesn't. But there's some story that you could tell as part of this helping them get to know you, that spoke to you, that spoke to the company. It could be a simple story about, our company went through a little reorganization about 2 years ago, and we realized that we were not very good at this, and we bought a company, and now we're good at this. It could be that. But anything that starts to add a little flavor and enrichment to this dialogue is good, and stories do that better than anything else. So get good at storytelling, and have a couple that are ready in case the situation presents.
I love the at the ready. You have to have these things cataloged, these stories. So I'm going to go again. I'm doing the bridge thing today, Bill. I'm taking your thing, giving an idea, and bringing it back to your thing. So here's my next bit of advice is you need to do some research on the company that you're going to talk to. Now, what most people do is they'll go, well, Bill, I know that you're a publicly traded company, and your stock finished last week at 48.62, which is a little off of and you're talking to the plant manager in Warsaw, Indiana. Okay. It's like, okay, that's too. Don't do that research. Well, yeah, I know you were founded in 1830. Don't do individualized research as best you can on the person you're going to talk to and their role, and then other roles like that. Here's the full circle back. So that once you do this research, you have this kind of persona person. If I'm talking to Bill, I do, the demographic stuff. I know he went to DePaul. He played basketball. And this is some rapport stuff. And I know he's got a coaching company and da-da-da. So once he does that, I can start to think of a business story that I can roll into my conversation that mirrors his. So if I'm talking to a $50 million business that's in the construction industry, let's say a paving company, well, I've got another client who's a little bigger than that, but when I started with them, they were about that size, that does fire protection. They're not the same, but they're similar. And when you tell that similar story, they can go into that story more easily, but you have to think about that. You have to do that on purpose. I can't tell the paving company a story about a dental supply company that I work with. Yeah. I can, but it's like, because what that invites then is like, well, that's the dental business is way different, Bill. This is construction. But if I tell a construction story, or if I'm calling on a dental group and then I'm talking to a medical device, then I mirror those stories together. Yeah. So do some research and then take the story that Bill's talking about and make sure you have a story that relates to them as close as you can. You may not be able to get it perfect, but get it close.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. That's so good. I had a call the other day. I might have mentioned this. I don't know. And I went to, we use Claude.ai. It's an artificial intelligence like ChatGPT. And I put in this gentleman's name and said, please write a 500 word profile on his background, his experience, his initiatives, and his name. And he was president of this company. It's about $100 million company. Yeah. And it came back with an unbelievable, it was unbelievable. Came back with company initiatives. Wow. Jonathan's first initiatives this year are this, that, and the other. It's like, oh, wow. Okay.
Nice.
Now, I didn't use any of that in the conversation. I did tell him at the end, we had pretty good rapport. And I said, hey, I went out and did this. He goes, really? What did it say? And I sent it to him. He goes, half this is wrong.
Right. Glad I didn't use it.
But it didn't matter. It was more just, okay, I got kind of a sense of who this dude is and what he's after and his background. And this guy's a player and he's done great things. It wasn't a matter of making me nervous. It was just, I felt like I knew him. Yeah, a little bit better. And so even if you don't use it and say, hey, I noticed you went to Yale and graduated, don't do that. I mean,
Right.
if
Right.
it's on LinkedIn, okay,
Right.
but that's sort of 70s, 80s stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Just
for sure.
use it for your own benefit to get comfortable that this guy is playing at a high level.
Yep.
He is not going to be interested in how many hours each of the training sessions are. He's more interested in what are the results and how are we going to help him solve these problems, even though I found that those initiatives were not really perfect, but it didn't matter. So
that's great.
You can use AI to get profiles of people you're going to be calling on. The plant manager in Warsaw, I don't know if they would have the same. I don't know if it could pull a 500 word. It would probably just be making up stuff like it did with this guy. But
you never know.
You never know.
Pulls news from there. Maybe they had a layoff, or maybe they had a construction expansion or an accident, or who knows.
Yeah.
To your point, it just informs you, so you feel more comfortable that you're knowledgeable about who you're talking to and what's going on in their world.
Yeah. So those are the things that we would put in. And, we did things like have an agenda, have a place in your files or folders that you can keep this, start with the upfront contacts, upfront agreement, have the questions we didn't talk about. There are probably some questions that you'll need to have answered. And so you would put those in there, maybe not in the agenda, but you would have it in your folder. Get out your calendar, the last point of your agenda is calendars. Calendars, anyone?
Yep. Get your calendars out. Let me see yours. I'll show you mine. That's a thing for sure.
And then a story to start with. And of course, the mindset. So those are 6 or 7 things that I think if you keep with you for a first call, it comes back. It comes back quick.
Yeah.
But it also gets lost quick.
Yep.
So if you go 6 calls and you don't refer to this, you're going to it's going to get a little fuzzy.
100%. And this will keep it. You do what Bill and I just talked to you about, taught you in this episode, and it will stay fresh for you.
Yeah.
So you want it to stay fresh for that energy. And by all means, just have fun with these first calls. Just have some fun with them, and you'll see your results will click.
Absolutely.
It'll be way better. All right.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.